of the Obama administration, which Secretary Clinton, of course, was a part, create a vacuum in Iraq and Syria that helped ISIS grow?
No, I think the vacuum was created by the disastrous war in Iraq, which I vigorously opposed. Not only did I vote against it, I helped lead the opposition. And what happened there is, yeah, it's easy to get rid of a two-bit dictator like Saddam Hussein, but there wasn't the kind of thought as to what happens the day after you get him, and what kind of political vacuum occurs, and who rises up. Groups like ISIS. So I think that President Obama made a promise to the American people when he ran. He said, I'm going to do my best to bring American troops home. And I supported what he did. Our job is to train and provide military support for Muslim countries in the area who are prepared to take on ISIS. And one point I want to make here, it is not made very often. You have incredibly wealthy countries in that region. Countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Qatar. Qatar happens to be the largest, wealthiest country per capita in the world. They have got to start putting in some skin in the game, not just ask the United States to do it.
I want to talk to you about red lines, because former Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel said in a recent interview that President Obama's decision to stand down on planned missile strikes against Damascus after Assad had used chemical weapons hurt the president's credibility. Should the president have stuck to his red line once he knew it?
Look, I think that the president's decision to go after the chemical weapons once there was a potential opportunity to build on when the Russians opened that door resulted in a very positive outcome. We were able to get the chemical weapons out. I know from my own experience as Secretary of State that we were deeply worried about Assad's forces using chemical weapons, because it would have had not only a horrific effect on people in Syria, but it could very well have affected the surrounding states, Jordan, Israel, Lebanon, Turkey. So getting those chemical weapons out was a big deal. I think as Commander-in-Chief, you've got to constantly be evaluating the decisions you have to make. I know a little bit about this, having spent many hours in the Situation Room advising President Obama. And I want to just add to something that Senator Sanders said. The United States had a very big interest in trying to help stabilize the region. If there is any blame to be spread around, it starts with the Prime Minister of Iraq, who sectarianized his military, setting Shia against Sunni. It is amplified by Assad, who has waged one of the bloodiest, most terrible attacks on his own people, 250,000 plus dead, millions fleeing, causing this vacuum that has been filled, unfortunately, by terrorist groups, including ISIS. So I think we are in the midst of great turmoil in this region. We have a proxy conflict going on between Saudi Arabia and Iran. You know, one of the criticisms I've had of Senator Sanders is his suggestion that, you know, Iranian troops be used to try to end the war in Syria and go after ISIS, which I don't think would be a good idea. But overall, a lot of the forces that work in the region are ones that we cannot directly influence.
There's no and she won't listen.
Secretary Clinton, I agree with most of what she said. But where I think we do have an honest disagreement is that in the incredible quagmire of Syria, where it's hard to know who's fighting who, and if you give arms to this guy, it may end up in ISIS's hands the next day. We all know that. And we all know, no argument. The Secretary is absolutely right. Assad is a butcher of his own people, a man using chemical weapons against his own people. This is beyond disgusting. But I think in terms of our priorities in the region, our first priority must be the destruction of ISIS. Our second priority must be getting rid of Assad for some political settlement, working with Iran, working with Russia. But the immediate task is to bring all interests together who want to destroy ISIS, including Russia, including Iran, including our Muslim allies, to make that the major priority.
But in all of that, Senator and Secretary, I think we're leaving out something very important here. And that is that we still don't have the human intelligence, overt in terms of diplomatic intelligence, or covert, to understand even what the heck happens as the secondary, tertiary effects of some of these things. We are walking through this region, Andrea, without the human intelligence that we need. And we need to make a renewed investment as a country in bringing up a new generation of foreign service officers, and bringing up a new generation of business people, and in actually understanding and having relationships in these places, so we have a better sense of what the heck happens after a dictator topples, and can take action to prevent another safe haven and another iteration of terror.
Time is up.
Yes, Senator Sanders mentioned Russia a moment ago. Secretary Clinton, you famously handed Russia's foreign minister a reset button in 2009. Since then, Russia has annexed Crimea, fomented a war in Ukraine, provided weapons that downed an airliner, and launched operations, as we just discussed, to support Assad in Syria. As president, would you hand Vladimir Putin a reset button?
Well, it depended on what I got for it, and I can tell you what we got in the first term. We got a New START treaty to reduce nuclear weapons between the United States and Russia. We got permission to resupply our troops in Afghanistan by traveling across Russia. We got Russia to sign on to our sanctions against Iran, and other very important commitments. So, look, in diplomacy, you are always trying to see how you can figure out the interests of the other, to see if there isn't some way you can advance your security and your values. When Putin came back in the fall of 2011, it was very clear he came back with a mission. And I began speaking out as soon as that happened, because there were some fraudulent elections held, and Russians poured out into the streets to demand their freedom, and he cracked down and, in fact, accused me of fomenting it. So we now know that he has a mixed record, to say the least, and we have to figure out how to deal with him.
What's your relationship with him?
Well, my relationship with him, it's interesting. It's one I think of respect. We've had some very tough dealings with one another, and I know that he's someone that you have to continually stand up to, because, like many bullies, he is somebody who will take as much as he possibly can unless you do. And we need to get the Europeans to be more willing to stand up. I was pleased they put sanctions on after Crimea and eastern Ukraine and the downing of the airliner, but we've got to be more united in preventing Putin from taking a more aggressive stance in Europe and the Middle East.
We want to right now the issue of balancing national security concerns with the privacy rights of Americans. That brings us to YouTube and this question.
Hi, my name is Marquez Brownlee, and I've been making YouTube videos about electronics and gadgets for the past 7 years. I think America's future success is tied to getting all kinds of tech right. Tech companies are responsible for the encryption technology to protect personal data, but the government wants a back door into that information. So do you think it's possible to find common ground, and where do you stand on privacy versus security?
So Governor Allen.
Thank you. I believe whether it's a back door or a front door, that the American principle of law should still hold, that our federal government should have to get a warrant, whether they want to come through your back door or your front door. And I also agree yesterday with Benjamin Franklin, who said no people should ever give up their privacy or their freedoms that are promised for security. So while we're a collaborative people, we need collaborative leadership here with Silicon Valley and other bright people in my own state of Maryland around NSA that can actually figure this out. But there are certain immutable principles that will not become antique things in our country so long as we defend our country and its values and its freedoms. And one of those things is our right to be secure in our homes and our right to expect that our federal government should have to get a warrant. I also want to say that while we made some progress on the Patriot Act, I do believe that we need an adversarial court system there. We need a public advocate. We need to develop jurisprudence so that we can develop a body of law that protect the privacy of Americans in the information and digital age.
Yes, Tom, you've all talked about what you would do fighting ISIS over there, but we live in this country by homegrown terrorists, from Chattanooga to San Bernardino. The recent shooting of a police officer in Philadelphia. How are you going to fight the lone wolves here?
So that's for years and years.
That's my question, Senator Sanders. I wasn't clear. I apologize.
I just wanted to add, in the previous question, I voted against the USA Patriot Act for many of the reasons that Governor Romney mentioned. But it is not only the government that we have to worry about, it is private corporations. You will all be amazed, or maybe not, about the amount of information private companies and the government has in terms of the websites that you access, the products that you buy, where you are this very moment. And it is very clear to me that public policy has not caught up with the explosion of technology. So yes, we have to work with Silicon Valley to make sure that we do not allow ISIS to transmit
But in terms of
information.
lone wolves, the threat.
Right. What we have got to do there is, among other things, as I was just saying, have Silicon Valley help us to make sure that information being transmitted through the internet or in other ways by ISIS is in fact discovered. But I do believe we can do that without violating the constitutional privacy rights of the American people.
We have to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to get to some of the burning questions these candidates have had to answer. Here to talk about.
Hillary is still trying to talk as we go to. Oh, wow.
Let's do some drawing classes. Okay. Hey, did you guys know we had free popcorn? How cool is that? Does everybody know where the restroom is? Go out that door. Big W, big M. Take free love. Okay, so here's what he got. Feel the Burn salsa. This is made in Oklahoma. Also, this is the awesome one, baby. The essential Bernie Sanders in his Visit for America soft bag. And, drum roll, hey, you've also won one more prize. First off, our headquarters. The Bernie headquarters is at 1408 South Denver. Just right down the road. Down Denver. If you go there, if you want to tell Tiffany a thing with your shirt size, you got a Bernie shirt for you. Okay, let's go back to music.